Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the number one source for news, analysis, and discussion on the Detroit Red Wings, the NHL, and all things hockey. Here are your hosts, Ryan Hanna, Brad Crisco, and Evan Lopsinger.
It's not like we always know how to intro these episodes, but it's not often that we spend 5 minutes wondering how to intro this episode. And we did debate, and Evan actually pushed for not even acknowledging the fact that he had been absent and is now back. Because you were like, maybe this is easier if we just pretend and just gaslight people.
Yeah, I thought that would actually be the funniest way of doing it. And we haven't talked about how to start an episode in ages.
No.
Forever. So this one was actually tricky. And it feels like I've never done this before at all. It feels like this is my first episode ever. I don't. We're going to talk about some stuff today, and we're going to have to dust off the old book of knowledge for sure, because, brain has been shut off for sure.
I mean, it's up to you, boss. You know, it's your call. We can get right into hockey or...
Well, I mean... Some people already know, and I'm sure nobody's wondering why I was missing. Some people may not have even noticed, but...
It did take him a few episodes, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, it's only been 3-4 episodes?
Yeah, it's off season, so you missed less work for sure.
Oh, that could have been really bad, but, this isn't how I wanted to tell everyone. We were going to hard launch this at a later date, but Catherine and I welcomed our first son into the world.
Hey.
I'm officially a father.
I'm outnumbered in here, which I don't appreciate. I think it was rude of you, but congratulations, you two.
We're super excited. He's obviously premature. He wasn't due until October, so we've been spending some time away from the house in the hospital. But everybody's doing good. Catherine was discharged nearly immediately, so she's doing great. Yeah, baby's doing great as well. So we're back. My sleep is segmented into multiple hours at a time.
Brad's grin is outrageous.
I'd like to tell you it gets better, but...
I feel like, Ryan, your mom would be proud of me because I feel like a medical professional now. The amount of time I've spent speaking with doctors and other medical professionals, I feel like I'm right there almost at this point.
Okay, so I have to add in a couple things here. One, Evan said... Obviously, the baby's premature. Shut up. Why would you think that's obvious?
I guess that's not obvious. Nobody knew.
You're expecting. So, I mean, the baby came it was 10 weeks early, right?
Yes.
Which was, when I saw that message from Catherine, I told you, I nearly crashed the car.
Well, but then Mel did.
But then, then Mel did, which was an interesting twist. The other thing is, Brad and I, we know Evan better than pretty much anyone else in our lives, save for our wives, and even then it gets close.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
And so we know, when Evan doesn't communicate, it doesn't mean things are bad. It's just Evan. And we were kind of wondering, how is he going to introduce the baby to the world, social media, whatever. No, what's the first thing that Evan actively engages us on where we're not checking in? Hey, Ryan, go check the golf app. He shot a personal best 4 under with 6 birdies after 3 weeks off. And that was his first social media post in 3 weeks as well. So,
my mind was clear. I had no scar tissue about golf after 3.5 weeks. I have no podcasting scar tissue and no golf scar tissue.
Yeah, you didn't have us holding you down. Don't worry. I'll reinstate the putting yips in you yet. To Catherine and your new baby boy, I can't be the first one to say his name. I don't know if you're going to.
Sure. We debated for a long time. I'm sure there's lots of people who knew what their baby's name was going to be, well in advance. Catherine and I both knew, but we had different choices. So
funny that
we got it down to 3. We were humming and hawing forever, and then we compromised and chose neither of our options, and we went with Sullivan. So little baby Sully.
Happy for Sully that he's doing well, and he's hopefully not too much longer in the hospital, but he's rocking out on the
Yeah,
great path.
he's just chilling. They call him a feeder and a grower, so he's just sleeping, eating, pooping. It's really the dream.
Well, I mean, Catherine tough as nails too, so
Yeah. So everything's good, just not a lot of sleep, and we'll see how this episode goes.
again, I am now outnumbered here, and so for that, Evan, I'll never forgive you.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, you got to play a really nice golf course instead of timing is everything, I suppose, in life, and yeah, I'll have to make my way back.
When Sully is old enough to understand, I'll say, "Hey, I know you know, but know that your dad loves you because he canceled a trip to go play the South Course at Oakland Hills when you were born."
There was a chance that I may have still wanted to, or still gone.
No.
Catherine's like, I was like, I can't go. She's like,
Really?
she thought about it for 2 seconds.
And
she's like, yeah, that would be too difficult.
You start unpacking
like,
the bag that you just packed in 2 seconds.
Yeah. It was all worth it in the end.
I'll say so. All right, folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Back to full strength in terms of people. Sleep, not so much. Here to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings hockey, the world of the NHL, and lots more. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we're going to be talking about the Red Wings prospective Olympic attendees, and less about, their Olympic performances and more about whether the fears from Red Wings fans about how they're going to play in the NHL afterwards is founded. We're going to be talking about the rebuild overall measured against the Montreal, Ottawa, Buffalo cohort, if you will, and kind of just take stock of where things are at and whatever else we get to before overtime. Very quickly, we are primarily supported by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. You get access to bonus episodes. You get access to bonus offseason content, our Discord, our giveaways. We give away 2 tickets to every Detroit Red Wings home game, all that, lots more. So again, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. There's been a theme for the Red Wings, which has been at some point during these years where like the second wild card spot has been somewhat attainable. The floor falls out from beneath them in the new year. If you go far enough back, maybe it was January, February, more recently, like March kind of thing. By April, maybe there's some competitive games, but they're trying to make up ground that they'd lost previously. And this past year with the Four Nations, that was obviously a heightened focus because Larkin and Raymond both picked up injuries there. And it did hamper both of them, but especially Larkin afterwards. Regardless of how many games they played, because they played through it, Larkin really wasn't the same for a long, long, long time after that, near the end of the season. Raymond bounced back quicker. The Olympics are a longer tournament. Maybe not as, hard, fast, banging bodies kind of tournament, but more games, more wear and tear. Are the fears founded from Red Wings fans about, Larkin's going to go away, Raymond's going to go away, Seider's going to go away, maybe Edvinsson's going to these guys are going to come back and pick up injuries at a time of year where the Red Wings are going to want to make a playoff push and try to be that wildcard team because, they've not been the best rosters, but they've been rosters that have been good enough to be that second wildcard team for at least a couple of years here.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that injury risk there is a very real possibility. I mean, we've seen it with Larkin, Raymond, even if you want to go back, I think it was the 2014 Olympics when Zetterberg got hurt. It's very, very real. But my argument as to why Red Wings fans specifically shouldn't worry about that, just about every playoff caliber team is in the same boat. It's just luck of the draw. Is it going to happen to you or is it going to happen to someone else? Ask Islanders fans about, I think it was 2014 as well, when John Tavares got hurt and was out for the season or whatever that was. And they were inconsolable. And I think they were roughly in the same position as Detroit now with fringy playoff team. So, yeah, and there's a bit of that, boomer mentality that comes out here, and maybe it's just the Evan effect of him being back, but hockey's a tough sport. Injuries could happen at practice, in a Red Wings game, in an international game. Always a risk. Hockey is hockey. You're flying around, you're contorting your body in weird ways, you're going high speed, big collisions. You're never going to step on the ice and an injury isn't a risk. yeah, the Olympics, the intensity's up a little bit more, and obviously that's going to heighten the risk a little bit, but you're not exactly reinventing the wheel out there. Dylan Larkin's just as likely to get hurt in a January game against Winnipeg as he is a round-robin game against Germany. Maybe even less so, because I don't think Seider would take a run at him. So it's a risk in the sense that, yes, it absolutely could happen, and it has happened. But the counter is, you look at Ottawa. Could happen to Brady Tkachuk. Could happen to Tim Stutzle. Could happen to Jake Sanderson. Like, all the teams around them are probably in the same boat, and it's no different than anything else in hockey where you're just spinning the wheel to see where it lands.
Is the trade deadline before or after the Olympic break?
After, I believe.
Oh, so perfect. It would open up some cap space. You go big game hunting, and you bolster the lineup.
That's right. It's the Vegas model, but instead of intentional, it's scrambling. As a father now, are you going to become even firmer into your I love violence, or are you going to soften?
Oh, I still love violence.
Okay, that's good. Good to know that those things don't change.
Yeah.
I agree with you in general, Brad, but I don't want to say... I think saying like he's just as likely to get injured in a January game against Winnipeg as he is in the Olympics, like, sure, but he's also not playing in the Olympics every year. My overall stance is the same as yours, though, which is that it is what it is ultimately, because this is for the betterment of the sport. Like, best on best Olympic hockey, we have missed that for over a decade now. Like, it is not right that we haven't had it. The Four Nations tournament was a phenomenal success, surprising all of us here in terms of its entertainment value. And even that, we hope to see the expanded World Cup of hockey now on offsetting years from the Olympics, but that was 4 countries. That wasn't real. That wasn't a real, who is the actual best in the world. I mean, for that time period, absolutely. There's all that excitement and buzz. And then everyone looks at the Olympics. Like, we wanted this. Hockey fans have wanted this. And so I just don't, you have to accept the truth that guys are going to get hurt, and this is the reality of it. And that injury, insurance and owners not wanting to send their superstars over to go get hurt, to hurt their product and their team, and that hurts ticket sales. And now they're missing the playoffs and they don't get, playoff game revenue. Like, that's all valid. And the IOC and the NHL in the IIHF, they argued forever on like insurance and travel costs and all of it. You just kind of have to eat it because it's for the good of the sport.
Yeah, and with your star players getting injured, obviously that sucks, but that's kind of the short-term way of thinking about it. And we know NHL owners love the short-term thinking. Just look at all the expansion fees. But in the long run, sending your best players and taking the best product and plopping it in a country that doesn't typically get exposure to NHL level players is better for them.
Yeah.
Over the long run. So yeah, would it suck if Dylan Larkin or Lucas Raymond or Moritz Seider got hurt at the Olympics and it kind of, kiboshed the Red Wings' hopes to make the playoffs this year? Absolutely. But I think you need to look past the NHL and think about hockey as a whole.
And what's the bigger risk with the Olympics in Italy? Injuries or conditioning and physical fitness coming back after a 2-week diet in Italy?
Well, we're going to find out firsthand in this studio.
Espressos and cigarettes. That's the diet.
That's breakfast, baby.
Yeah.
That's why you can take so long for dinner. You're not going to have a lot the next morning.
Exactly.
But the conditioning point, like, joking aside, is actually a part of this. Like, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, Mo Seider, they haven't had to play full seasons with Olympic tournaments in their careers yet because we haven't had the Olympics or an equivalent best on best. The Four Nations was a jolt to their system, and it wasn't just them. It took a lot of guys out. Tkachuk got hurt there. He came back for the playoffs, went and won a cup, delayed surgery up until now so he can take most of the year off because he'd been to, however many consecutive playoff games and cup finals, is going to come back just in time for the Olympics and then still be relatively fresh for the Panthers' next push for the cup. What a coincidence. It's good to know that it's not just us lay folk that are having to deal with surgery delays and not enough surgeons in hospital beds. It's even, the Tkachuks as well. Crazy how that happens. Anyways, like, other players pick up these injuries, and especially at the Four Nations, because there's a generation of top talent that just hasn't had to not go to Cabo for 2 weeks in the middle of winter. They've had to go to Turin or Milan or, Germany or wherever, Sochi, and play the most competitive hockey that they could possibly play out of the Stanley Cup final, maybe. So it's going to take an adjustment period, and you'd hope that Larkin and Raymond and everyone else have learned a little bit more about what they need to do for that.
Yeah, the Four Nations was a warm-up for that. It's there, you've done it, you know what it's like, you know the expectations. And again, this is what the players wanted. Like, I understand all the risks, but the one thing I don't want to hear is the players at the end of the year, oh yeah, with the Olympics, it was grueling, it was tough, what a long season, that's why X, Y, and Z bad thing happened after. No, this is what you signed up for. This is what you've been pushing the NHL for what, a decade now?
And I don't think they would complain.
No, I don't think they would at all. But I'm saying if they do, like, loser attitude. This is what you wanted. You have got it. And now it's time to step up. Now, realistically, for the Red Wings, it's only a handful. It's only a few players. The rest of the roster is getting a nice mid-season break. And there's going to be teams around them in the standings that are going to be sending more players. Like the Leafs, Florida, Tampa, without even looking at their running through the roster, blindly, I can assume they're sending more players, right? Ottawa, probably. Montreal actually might be the team best positioned for this because, like, all their top players are the guys who are just off the roster for each country. Like Caufield's probably not making the States. Montembeault, he'll be there, but he's not going to play for Canada. So
Suzuki,
he's got a chance. It would depend how his season goes up to that point, but I wouldn't call him likely at this point.
Yeah.
Lane Hutson, notably no chance. Terrible, awful defenseman.
Not even invited.
Yeah.
Not even invited to orientation.
Hey, we all have that in common with Lane Hutson. We weren't invited either.
You missed it. We were dunking on the Canadiens. You missed that.
Nah, really couldn't save that, eh?
Well,
No.
I'm bringing it up right now for you. We're rehashing it.
Did you guys talk about how Patrick Kane got invited to the camp? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But good to know that you've been listening to the episodes.
You guys know they signed Travis Hamonic?
I actually don't know if that's a bit because we did a whole episode on it.
That was the only other thing I put on social media while I've been away.
Oh, that's right.
I retweeted something about how 2014 Evan would be thrilled about this.
We actually, I'm assuming you didn't listen to that episode because you were a bit busy. But we said, you know what? We're not going to talk about this. Evan's going to do an hour on Travis Hamonic when he's back.
I couldn't even do a minute.
There you go. That's about what we said would happen. With the potential guys who are going to make it, I should add, Simon Edvinsson, it's not an easy roster to crack, but does he have an outside chance?
He's got an outside chance. Like we talked about with Suzuki, he'll have to have like a hair on fire tight start to the season because Sweden's got a lot of good blue liners, and even a lot of their guys like, I don't know, a Broberg, who's almost certainly not going to make it. If he has a good year, that's another hurdle to make the team. But I don't think it's crazy for Edvinsson to make the team with his toolkit, the way he's still, you would think, getting better in all likelihood. So this one, probably not. I would be shocked if he's not on the 2030 team, though.
Yeah, it also depends on injuries, too. Like if Hedman goes down, if Forsling goes down kind of thing, like we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, interesting to see. It's just one of those things where people are like, hey, the Red Wings keep getting key injuries at terrible times. It's like, yeah, you're not wrong, but this is going to be the reality, and it's not just going to be Olympic years. Like if the NHL made the Four Nations work, they're going to make this, World Cup of Hockey work too. It's going to be every offsetting year. You're going to have to do this. So it's going to have to normalize, and guys are going to have to condition for it. Now, one last thing I'll add here is I do think the Red Wings are disproportionately affected, not compared to everyone else, but to the Floridas or the Tampas, because it's like, oh, if Dylan Larkin gets hurt or Lucas Raymond gets hurt, it's a thin team. They are at some positions absolutely a house of cards, and even at positions where they're stronger, they're just kind of like a stronger house of cards. Like Larkin going down often sinks the team. Lucas Raymond going down would sink the team. Moritz Seider going down, not that he has ever gone down, would sink the team. Like it's a thin team, and they don't have productive depth. And not only that, those guys are playing harder minutes because of that. So up until the Olympics, they have more wear and tear on them and are playing harder minutes than other guys who are coming in from the Dallases and the Tampa Bays and what have you.
Yeah, it's the Olympics exposing a depth issue. It is crazy to think there's a reality here where half the Red Wings defense is at the Olympics, because Seider's definitely going to be there for Germany. Edvinsson, he's got a chance to make Sweden. And then when we trade for Karlsson,
That's right.
that's half the defense right there.
Well, I mean, don't count Gustafsson out. EA NHL said he's an 84 overall, so Gustafsson must have a chance
Exact
too.
same odds as Simon Edvinsson.
That's what happens when you get like 9 points in the World Championship.
You know what? That's probably how they got that rating. You ever see the gif of the kid who's like looking at a guy and then he looks down and he looks horrified?
No.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
It's like when you're scanning through the Red Wings ratings and you go through, you're like, man, that one's a bit off. Yeah, that one seems fair. Oh, okay. Edvinsson and Gustafsson at the same rating, huh? Cool.
Sure.
Although that's a good point about Gustafsson in international play. Like, he did tear it up there.
We've talked about it. Nobody wants to watch the Red Wings for the last 10 years. That might be the only exposure they've had to any Red Wings in that time.
Yeah. And it's not really, they're not beacons of accurate assessment of the depth, to put it lightly. So, I mean, we'll see. The Red Wings are going to have these doubts coming their way until they have an early spring that doesn't kind of seem self-inflicted in terms of failure. Not saying that the roster is absolutely good enough where they should have made it every single year of those, last however many years, but it is just, people aren't wrong to focus on it, but again, it's the reality of it. All right, let's jump into the next topic here. Just to start us off, we talked about the Montreals and the Ottawas and the Buffaloes, and they're going to be sending good players, and we think about Suzuki, and he's ascending to be one of the almost like a Larkin kind of center, where people are like, sure, he's not a superstar, but this is absolutely a number one center in this league, and he's super underappreciated, and they have so much other talent that they've added through either shrewd drafting and Lane Hutson, or just like extremely high draft picks like Demidov and Slavkovsky, and Ottawa brought in Ullmark, and that changed the game. Anyhow, we always talk about the Yzer plan and the Red Wings rebuild and where they're at. I think most people, if you polled non-Red Wings fans, they would say Montreal and Ottawa are ahead. Even if by the simplest observation that they made the playoffs and the Red Wings didn't last year. But how far ahead are they? Are they in a different tier? Are either of them at risk of regressing? And is Detroit having to play catch up? Like, where does this all fall for you?
There's so many angles you could take. If you look at the right now, Ottawa is definitely ahead of Detroit. I wouldn't say different tier, but they're at opposite ends of that tier. Montreal as a team this past year, by most analytics and underlyings you want to look at, overachieved. There is a reasonable chance they regress this year. They are not quite such a lock. They could be in that Detroit tier for this very season. The big wild card is Demidov, because obviously there was very, very little data and sample size for him last year. So, they had unreal goaltending, and, they were bottom third-ish of the league for a lot of the advanced analytics that, the analytics community will focus on to point to. That's an indicator of a good or a bad team. And Buffalo, man, I can't even form opinions on Buffalo because they're always worse than they look on paper. Always.
Yes.
So I think you could lump all four of them in the same tier there for current roster, with Ottawa probably being at the top of that group, and then you can flip coins below that. Obviously, the relevant question is contender status, which is more so long-term view. This is where I actually probably bump Ottawa down to maybe third or fourth of this group, because their only significant prospect that's not on the team right now is Carter Yakimchuk, who by all accounts had an okay year, but didn't live up to what people thought he was going to do this year. Their roster, for the most part, is what it is and what it's going to be, barring a huge trade. But even then, they don't have a lot of ammo in the way of picks and prospects to swing a big trade without giving up something off their roster. So, they got in as the 7th seed this year, the first wild card, which is obviously tremendous for them, but I have a hard time seeing a path where they go up from there. Like, this is kind of going to be that 5 to 7 tier where they're probably going to live for a while. Montreal is the one that scares the hell out of me. One, because like Evan, I'm always leery around the French, but two, they have arguably a better roster than Detroit now. At the very least, they're insanely comparable. But their system, their prospects, what they have still coming is loaded and maybe not as deep as Detroit's, but the top end is a lot stronger. They have, like, Demidov would still be considered a prospect. Obviously, we have Costa and Augustine, which is great, but they've got Fowler, who's going to be a really, really good goalie. Reinbacher still hasn't broke through. And, I'm not going to list every one of their prospects, but they got 3 or 4 more who would probably fall in the top 5 to 7 of Detroit's pipeline.
Haig, who you loved in that draft class.
Yeah, Michael Hage is there as well. Like, they've got a really good system. And that's the part that concerns me, because we've talked about it at length with Detroit's pipeline. It's deep. There's a lot of guys in the Red Wings system who could be really, really good middle six, second pair type guys. But I think anybody would trade it all for 2 superstars. If you had 2 Demidov level prospects in the pipeline, you're in a better spot than having 7, let's call it max plant level prospects. You know what I mean? And that's where Montreal's strength is right now. They have a potential franchise goalie. They've got another stud defenseman coming up and a superstar forward. If you're going to build a pipeline, it's a great place to start. Because now, mind you, I would argue Sandin Pellikka is better than Reinbacher, and obviously Augustine, Cossa, Fowler, all comparable. Detroit doesn't have anybody close to Demidov. Lane Hutson's not old. Michael Hage would be in that top tier of Red Wings prospects. Like, they're scary. And again, like everything in hockey, it may or may not pan out. You don't know, but they're in a really, really good spot. Buffalo, they're at the bottom of this tier, I think, for me, in terms of everything put together. I do like their prospects better than Ottawa, but obviously the roster is a whole nother conversation. So if you look at the right now, Ottawa's got the edge. If you look at the long term, Montreal's probably got the edge. And I think most optimistic view, the right now you can put Detroit 3, the future you can put Detroit 2. It's probably where I slot.
I think one thing that happens a lot, and this is going to almost sound hypocritical because fan bases overrate their own prospects, but also when fan bases are doing analysis on a team that's not been successful, they're harder on themselves because they're like, there's no immediate hope. And so it kind of casts a wet blanket over what are fantastic prospects in, like, Danielson or Sandin Pellikka or whatever. And then you look at the shiny toys that other teams have, and they almost forget to apply the big grain of salt asterisk that's these guys all have a ton of potential, but they're not all going to hit. The same way we always say, every single top prospect that's not already made it on the Red Wings system, not all of them are going to hit either. There's going to be a bust or 2 in there, at least. Statistically speaking, that's just how it happens. So we have to remember to apply that to Montreal when we talk about, Hage and Bolduc and Fowler and I mean,
Demidov.
Not likely with Demidov, but
Didn't even mention they just traded for Noah Dobson.
Like, not a prospect, but
but young enough that you can factor him into the long-term plans.
Long-term core, yeah. That said, I agree with you. Montreal they've done really well with later picks. I mean, every team in the league is kicking themselves about Lane Hutson. People were screaming from the rooftop saying, just because he's small, don't skip over him. And Montreal is smart enough. But they also got the pick for Demidov, right? Like, the Red Wings wanted to be able to grab a Demidov or a Michkov or think of someone who is that level of talent who is falling, and it just never made it to them. That's the difference, right? Like, Montreal had that luck. And they did all of this in a year where the first overall pick that they had wasn't that great of a year. Slavkovsky's a great player. I think he's going to be a fantastic player for the Canadiens for as long as he'll be there, but there have been better draft years. So it's kind of amazing that they're this well stocked while they didn't get a, Rasmus Dahlin level player, Jack Hughes level player, and Austin Matthews level player when they had the first overall pick.
Well, they potentially got those picks elsewhere, which is the more infuriating part, right? They got a first overall pick. I think most people would say they fumbled that pick, but it's going to work out. And then they got Demidov, and then they got Lane Hutson later in the draft. So Yeah, the Red Wings so far haven't had that sort of later round, second, third, fourth round player that everybody kind of missed on. Maybe Pachelnikov becomes that guy. That's very, very TBD. But yeah, Montreal has drafted well, and they've made good moves, like bringing in Nick Suzuki. Like, that was an awful trade for Vegas in hindsight for Max Pacioretty. Nick Suzuki has an outside shot of playing on Team Canada, and I think he's nasty. So yeah, when we're talking about these three teams, Montreal, Ottawa, Detroit, I'm not all that concerned about Ottawa. Yeah, Ottawa's been in the playoffs. They know how to get there. They're kind of that more like they know what to do to get there, but I'm not worried about them. Whereas Montreal has now been there, and I'm worried about them because I think they will be able to sustain this over a long period of time. Basically, how Detroit's trying to, the same timeline as Detroit.
We are going to continue this conversation, but first, a quick break to hear from the sponsors of the Winged Wheel podcast. Back after this. Guys, you don't need another hat to cover up thinning hair. What you need is a personalized plan. That's where Hims comes in. They provide access to treatments that use clinically proven ingredients designed to slow hair loss and help regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. So instead of hiding under a cap, you can actually do something about it. Hims offers convenient access to prescription hair loss treatments in different forms: chewables, oral medications, sprays, even serums. So you and a licensed medical provider can find what fits your routine. Here's how it works. You fill out an online intake form, a licensed medical provider reviews your information, and if prescribed, your treatment ships straight to your door. The whole process is online, simple, and built to fit around your schedule. No surprise fees, no hoops to jump through, just straightforward care that puts your goals first. And you're not on your own here. Hims has already helped hundreds of thousands of men take action and feel more confident again. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/wingedwheel. That's hims.com/wingedwheel for your free online visit. hims.com/wingedwheel. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Back to your point, Evan. Yeah, you can't deny the kind of talent that they have. I do still think, though, and this kind of ties into what Brad, you said, where like long term, you can see the vision where as of right now, Montreal is probably first, but Detroit can absolutely be second behind them. I don't think the gap is necessarily as, it's not a canyon for sure. I think there's a range of possibilities. It could seem like the Grand Canyon if Montreal hits on all those guys, right? And too many of the Red Wings prospects fizzle out. But it also could be that Danielson hits the same way that Kasper does, and Sandin Pellikka is an absolutely electric, like even number one pair level defenseman. And, the Red Wings have two fantastic goalies and they're able to deal one out. Like, it doesn't feel like a lost cause. It doesn't feel like the Red Wings are destitute or have absolutely nothing. And if you had to roll the dice based on the position that the Red Wings were in pre-loading the cupboard, and you said, I will tell you nothing about the future except for the fact that the Red Wings won't win any of these lotteries and these are the positions they're going to draft in, you'd be pretty happy with what they ended up with overall. So they got work to do. I, to a annoying degree, always say that the Red Wings are on the right path, but they still have to GM their way out of not some jams, but to get onto the fast lane, like get into the left lane, get into the HOV lane, and be able to put your foot to the floor a little bit. Montreal was able to do so because they landed Demidov, and just because they didn't necessarily make the best picks with, some people might say, Reinbacher and Slavkovsky, they still have all those guys and the top level talent. You're not out of ways to try and catch up. You need luck, and it's frankly bullshit that not every team gets the same kind of luck on their first try as like the San Jose's or the Montreals or whatever. But until that luck comes, you have to try to find a way to manufacture that. And that's where Yzerman and his wealth of prospects and picks and stuff, where he can make that happen.
Yeah, I think if I had to boil this down to what's the main difference with why I would rank Montreal and Detroit the way I do, I could see a path to Montreal being a contender and they make 0 trades or free agent signings in the next 5 years. You can see Dobson, Gooley, Hutson being a good top three. You know, I would take Larkin and Raymond over Suzuki and Caufield, but then who's Detroit's answer to Demidov and Slavkovsky? They got guys who are going to fill those roles, but not to that level in all likelihood, right? You know, Kasper's going to be great, but I don't think he has the ceiling Demidov has. And again, these guys have to hit, but like we're projecting all the Red Wings prospects, so we got to project the other team's prospects fairly as well. Whereas I can't see Detroit becoming a contender without something else happening. Doesn't mean they can't do it, and this is where the depth of the system comes in handy because they can afford to use some of that capital. But until that becomes an actuality, it's just theory, which means nothing, right? So, you know, Montreal took their swing. They got Dobson. You mentioned him briefly, but that trade for Bolduc was excellent.
Yeah.
Like, Montembeau's not that old, so it's not like they have to rush Fowler in to be their goalie of the future here, but whenever he's ready, he can take over for him. And yeah, they're in a really good spot. And this is not to say Montreal also doesn't have the option to continue to add, right? They just gave up 2 first-round picks to get Noah Dobson, and nobody went, oh, their system's screwed now. No, they're still in a good spot. And Detroit would be the same thing. Detroit could go out and make the same level of trade right now and still have a top 12 farm system in the NHL. Comfortably.
Detroit was almost in, like, you talk about the mushy middle in the standings, even in draft picks. Like, their picks were too good to be making massive deals like that. Like, not that it would have been, like, inadvisable to do so, but Montreal almost had, like, the sweet spot of first-round picks to dish to make that trade where it's like, yeah, you're going to give up good prospects, but not like a top 10, 12 level guy.
And they found a partner who was desperately trying to move up in the draft.
Yes. And the player that they were dealing wanted to go to Montreal.
But that's what being a good GM is. You've identified those opportunities and you've got the assets and you make it happen.
All the credit to the world in terms of how Montreal has managed themselves in their new era. Like they've made some serious steps forward. Now, I am watching with a little bit of petty hate in my heart. I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to be purely objective here, but I am watching because objectively speaking, teams like Montreal, they don't just click right away. Like you can add the talent, but figuring out how to win is a secondary step.
I mean, they just made the playoffs.
Right. And
yeah, so now Montreal is a pressure cooker. They are Toronto, but speak French.
Yes.
So there are now expectations on those players, and fair or unfair, Demidov is going to have a lot of pressure going on to him, and if he starts the season poorly, fairly or unfairly, there's going to be some heat his way.
Lane Hutson is going to have a lot of pressure on him. The book is out. Teams are going to hit him and hit him hard. He's going to make magic happen in the offensive zone, but he is going to get absolutely cooked on defense unless he changes his game fundamentally. And if Montreal wants to use him more, they're going to have to put him into more defensive zone situations by virtue of that. So there's going to be pressure on him. Like Suzuki, I think, is already established. Like I don't think he emerged, but it's more that the teams, the rest of the league discovered what he was already doing kind of thing.
There's pressure on Dobson too, right? Like they gave up 2 first-round picks to bring this guy in, and if he can't, be a minute muncher and a half a point per game type defenseman, like they're going to be all over him as well.
And you just think like the best thing for these guys is to just demand a trade to somewhere that doesn't expect you to speak French and just, Lane Hutson, come to Michigan kind of thing. Regardless, in all seriousness, I do think Montreal is one of those teams that's ripe for potentially like they're not going to be a linear path forward every year kind of thing until they're a Stanley Cup contender. If they make it there, they're going to see some steps back, and I'm curious to see if they do it this year. Ottawa as well. We talk about Ottawa. Yes, that team they've done a great job. I think adding Allmark was an excellent move, quite obviously. Are they going to reproduce the same success? The banks on the health of guys. You talk about which players are most likely to be injured in a best on best or international tournament. It is anyone with Tkachuk on their jersey, the way those guys play hockey. So, Brady's going to have to stay healthy too. They got a serious team, and anyone who doesn't take that seriously is just missing the plot. But
Well, yeah, Ottawa for this upcoming season is by far in the best position of all of them because they made the playoffs pretty comfortably last year. All their underlyings say, yeah, that's about where they should have been. They were a good team. It's just what's their path to take a step forward that I struggle to see. I again, if we made our predictions today for who's going to make the playoffs in the East, I wouldn't think twice about putting Ottawa in there. Like for the right now, they are the best team of the bunch on paper.
I think they're obviously looking more from Jake Sanderson, which I fully think he's on a rocket ship up. They're probably looking more from Tim Stutzle as well, who needs to try and, repeat as an elite centerman in the NHL. And, they made some interesting moves that I thought really worked out. Like they brought in Zetterlund, who looked like he fit in immediately. They brought in David Perron, which Red Wings fans probably would have preferred him to stay in Detroit after what we got this year out of Tarasenko. So Ottawa's been there, done that. They know how to get into the playoffs. I just, when you look at that team, nothing says contender to me.
I think, I just think they have all the makings to do the same as they did last year.
Yeah.
Much more, I don't know. I don't think so. I think they have a pretty low floor too, but that depends on health. Buffalo's the interesting one, right? Like you opened with the correct take there, Brad. Like they have the talent, but they just seem to never be able to do it.
They always find a way to Buffalo it up.
They're like the inverse of the Boston dynasty. It's like, we're like, when is Boston going to be bad? Never. When is Buffalo going to be good? Also never.
Oh my God, that's the exact right way to put it. And it's like all signs point to Boston being bad, X year. It's like, no, they have first in the league, President's Trophy. All signs point to this year being the year that Buffalo makes the playoffs. Bottom of the league. Yet another lottery pick. I don't know. Like,
do you guys really think Boston's going to be that bad this year?
Yeah.
Like, you think they're going to be
No.
worse than Buffalo?
No.
There's a chance.
There's a chance.
It's in their best interest to tank this year. They got to do it for a year.
They did not have Charlie McAvoy for a very good chunk of that season when he got hurt at Four Nations and they came back. That's when their season truly went off the rails. They weren't a good team before then, but they weren't the laughing stock they ended up being. Swayman had an awful start, and I think anybody who knows even a little bit of goaltending will be like, he's probably going to be better this year.
He's an every other year goalie, yeah.
Yeah, so again, I probably don't have them in the playoffs this year, but I can't sit here and tell you for sure Montreal, Buffalo, or Detroit are better than them, definitively. I can't.
No, you got guys like Pasternak on the team too, right? Like that guy can just go supernova. I think Swayman can go supernova at any point, and McAvoy is one of the best defensemen in the league. So,
and Hampus Lindholm missed a good chunk of the season last year, and he's back.
Yeah, Boston's also one of those teams where it's like, you're like, why? Just because you're an original six team or a historic team or a major city, you have to always have the best players. You have to always have a competitive team. And this isn't just the NHL, like across sports. And sometimes annoyingly, it's like, yeah, they're always going to find a way to do it because, that's the expectation from fans and ownership. And they always make it happen. And then when they crash hard, but they bounce back. I don't know. I agree with you. Like you have the Pasternaks, you have the McAvoys. You're always going to have a shot, but if I'm Boston, I'm like, you tank 1 year for Gavin McKenna, boy, will you come back strong.
Hagens McKenna, not too bad.
That's okay.
It's a hell of a head start. I just thought about it. Would you say it's possible or likely that 5 of the original 6 teams miss the playoffs this year? Toronto's probably the only lock.
Yeah, because I'm looking at Jay Fresh's point projections right now. So Montreal, Detroit, Boston, he has missing. He has the Rangers in.
Interesting. Chicago, no chance.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
The NHL would not be happy with, 4 more original 6 teams missing.
Wasn't that what happened last year?
They weren't happy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the NHL's not happy.
But at least they got lucky in the sense that it was Toronto and Montreal that got in.
Yes. Like, for all the talk about, fans are like, oh, the NHL hates the Red Wings and it's rigged and the calls against them, or, they won't give them events or whatever. The NHL desperately wants playoff hockey in Detroit because it just prints money for them. Original Six playoff hockey is a money printer.
American Original Six too.
Oh God, yeah. And Canadian teams will print money. If the sun comes up that day, that team will print money for the most part. I mean, certainly the Jets owners are hearing this and saying, yeah, absolutely not, pal.
Huh.
It must be nice. But if they put a team in Quebec City, they wouldn't have to ever win a game and they would sell out every single game. And half of it would be Montreal fans going there for the pregame and the postgame brawl.
God, would that be amazing?
That'd be incredible.
Just two Quebec teams. The fans just beat each other up every game. Every time they play each other, it's just chaos.
They should give us that. I understand it's not creating any new hockey fans, but it would, just because people would tune in for fight night.
Yeah, I would tune in. That'd be amazing.
You certainly would. That's where
That'd be amazing.
You're like, I'm not watching games 83 and 84. I'm watching.
I would just throw the stick of dynamite between the two fan bases and walk away.
You learn enough French to incite a riot, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty certain you already know enough French to incite a riot.
I
don't know. I think in terms of tiers, long-term future, it's hard to say that anyone has pulled away to the point where you're like, that's going to be the Florida, the Tampa Bay, the Toronto, like the head of the East of the future. Montreal has all the makings where they're in the driver's seat. I think depending on how fine your tiers go, then yeah, they probably are in their own there, but I don't think you can count the rest too far behind them. And then if you're talking prospects future, then yeah, you're right, Brett. I think you can make a really good point or a case for the Red Wings after Montreal. We'll see how it plays out. All right, other quick news. It is the last day of August, and the NHL knew that Evan was taking some time off because, you had 2.5 months of your life stolen from you.
It feels like it.
For good reason. And so they're like, okay, well, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to make Evan's life even more hectic, which means nothing has happened.
Did you guys know they retired Sergei Fedorov's number?
Not yet. They're going to.
Well, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
The release video was cool as hell.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Pulling out the old skates. Yeah. They're burying the hatchet, it seems like. I think it was really a no-brainer. I'm glad it's happening. And it's hilarious it's happening against Carolina.
That's so good.
It was about time.
It was absolutely about time. All right. National broadcast games were put out, and what was it? 17 Red Wings games are going to be on either TNT or ESPN broadcast, which makes them the second most U.S. national broadcast games across anyone in the league. They are tied with Colorado, also has 17. They're only behind Washington with 18, and that is presumably because this is presumably the Ovi farewell year. 17 nationally broadcast games.
Why?
Gonna get really good at reading this year. So it'll be on mute, watching the subtitles.
Oh my God. I know I'm whiny. I never pretend to not be whiny. And I got fairly called out for whining about this online. And they're like, isn't this a good thing? Like national coverage? I'm like, yeah, sure. They're original 6 teams, so I don't really think they're hurting for coverage. But all that aside, 4 years into his career and we were still hearing Mason Raymond. I'm sorry, I'm just done pretending that it isn't an inferior entertainment experience for the fans. Don't get me wrong. There's people on TNT and ESPN who I really enjoy. I think they do a great job. But overall, when you are lucky enough to have, I think, the best team broadcast in the league in Ken and Mick and everyone at FanDuel Sports Detroit, it's a pretty rough departure when you then go to someone who
forgets Simon Edvinsson is a part of this team.
Yeah.
Which has happened recently.
And it's like they speak in like these broad platitudes of someone who's like fairly, because they cover the entire NHL, not watched the Red Wings at all recently. And it's like, Red Wings fans are tuning into this. It's inane.
I know people will counter by saying, well, how the hell are they supposed to know everything about 32 teams? It's like, you just got to get the national general bar up just, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not quite good enough.
Yeah, it's an impossible task. I understand that. It is not an easy ask to have more than surface level knowledge about 32 different teams. Like, we get into the Red Wings in depth and like the nuance of something we can spend a whole episode on. There's no reality most national broadcasters can do that. I'm sure the day of a game or the few days leading up to a game, they're doing their research, they're doing some reading, and they're getting ahead of it. At least the good ones are. But to Ryan's point, it starts with reading their names.
That's why I said the bar needs to get a little higher.
Lucas. When you can't get Lucas, I do not trust anything else you're going to say about the team after that.
Was Mason Raymond's career good enough to be continuing
He was a fourth liner
making this mistake?
If you are from Vancouver or you were an avid watcher of only Canadian national broadcasts, I would understand why Mason Raymond's name still lives in your head. Other than that, Lucas Raymond is a better player.
Might already have more points.
I'm literally looking that up as we speak. Mason Raymond had 251 career points. What's Lucas at?
Ooh, it's going to be more than that, isn't it? It's got to be real close.
254. No, Lucas is the superior player.
Oh my God.
I can't believe we didn't have an emergency podcast for that.
Maybe that was it. Maybe those last few points were all the broadcasters needed. Anyways, look, if you're listening to this, it's Lucas Raymond. Please. Just, oh, God. Anyways, Ken and Mick we're thankful for them. And I'm going to pull words from earlier this episode. It is what it is. It's for the good of the game. And so I have to just suck it up and deal with it.
Well, it'll only be 15 games for me because I'm going to take 2 of those off.
We're not at 84 yet.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's next year.
You're going to have to suffer through all 17.
What are we going to do? We already had Evan Brain to deal with. What are we going to do with Dad Brain stacked on top of Evan Brain? You're not a sleep-deprived guy. You sleep really well, or you used to.
Catherine was a strict, 9+ hours sleeper, and obviously, when your spouse goes to bed, I don't know about you, this is not main show content, but when your spouse goes to bed, it's like I get dragged to bed and I'm not tired at all.
Mm.
So now my sleep schedule was used to being that 9-hour type sleep. Now it's like I get 2, 2, 2, 1.
Whoa.
Yeah,
that's 7 hours over
I don't know what's going to happen. This will be the science experiment.
Not a lot of league news. I thought this was so funny. Tyson Barrie retired. Did you hear what he said he did a Sirius XM interview?
I'm sure most of you thought I was already retired, but it's official now or something like that.
It was a decision in tandem with the 32 NHL teams.
Good. Fair enough.
That's
I love
funny
that.
As hell. That's if Evan ever made the show and retired, that's kind of how you would do it.
Yeah. I think I saw Leon posted on his Instagram something about Tyson Barrie as well, and it was like a clip, and he tried to stutter step along the blue line and simultaneously broke both of his own ankles. And he's like something like happy retirement to our PP1 quarterback. Like just a troll video clip of Tyson Barrie just breaking his own ankles.
I don't know why it triggered this in my head, but it's recent enough that it's probably worth bringing up. Did you see the Instagram advertisement that Jakub Dobiš from Montreal posted about a bed company?
Oh, yeah.
And he had the glamour shots in the bed. And the top comment is just Patrick Laine, all caps, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the whole team got in there by the end.
Not
the bed, but.
That was one of my favorite comment sections I've ever read.
Speaking of Montreal, Mark D'Amico reports that Carey Price's contract should be traded this upcoming week, with sources suggesting San Jose, Chicago, or Pittsburgh as destinations. The Habs are open to trading Price's contract to allow them to make another trade. So moving that money on, think like Pavel Datsyuk.
You imagine Carey Price is like, you know what? I will play one more year, and he plays in Pittsburgh.
The Habs fans would riot. That would feel like sacrilege for them.
Imagine how many cups they would have won if they had prime Carey Price in Pittsburgh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, if they had an actual Hall of Fame level goalie for any of that stretch.
Well, after they had one of the greatest goalies of all time.
Hey, where are you with
Barrasso left there long before.
You're asking me to pull out knowledge on a brain that has not worked in 24
all-time list.
days.
This is an easy one, I promise. But we were talking about this on a previous episode, which you definitely listened to. Where are you with Brodeur on the all-time list?
He's got to be in the top 4, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Is he
and
top
I'm
2?
sure there's some guys like, Terry Sawchuk, where it's like, how could he not be on there? It's like, sorry, I'm not old. Well, I feel old, but I'm not that old.
Yeah.
I saw a clip. I don't know if I saw this on Instagram or what, and it was just Johnny Bauer just taking a shot right to the face.
Oh yeah.
And he just it was like he had a helmet on.
By that point in his career, the flesh may have been more.
He just literally tried to make a save. There was a rebound, and he just went down on his shoulders and used the front of his head, his face, to stop like a clapper.
Fun fact, that probably turned one of the optical nerves back on. It had been shut off in the second period where he took another shot to the temple.
Puck hit him, and he's just like, oh, I know math again.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Is he top 2 for you? Is he above Hasek and Waugh? Either one of them?
I mean, I feel like I said, my brain is not able to pull up any sort of coherent thought on Marty Brodeur right now, but I feel like I could certainly hear an argument on it.
Okay. I just want to see how deep your almost hypocritical love for French-Canadian legendary goalies goes. If it's just Marc-Andre Fleury, or if it extends beyond that.
Oh, did you guys argue about this? Is this why you bring?
No, we all agreed.
Yeah, we're pretty much on the same
page. Brodeur's a top 4, but I don't think he was top 2 for me, you, or...
Yeah, I said it was Hasek, a gap, Waugh, a gap, and then you start making debates.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump into overtime. We'll be back after this quick break.
We're going to overtime.
Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. If you want to support the show, again, the bonus overtime episodes, the bonus off-season content. Now that we have Evan back, we can actually start to catch up on those. So you can understand now why we had to fall a little bit behind, and we couldn't tell you why. A man of mystery, he always is. The giveaways, the Discord, all of that and lots more. So again, thank you to our Patreon supporters. This first one, we'll answer it during the bonus episode afterwards, but I had to read it because I thought it was extremely funny considering the circumstances. Wings fan in St. Louis, Scott, says, just enjoying the Labor Day weekend. Youngest son Zachary's birthday today. Happy birthday, Zachary. This episode goes out to you. Smoking a pork butt to make pulled pork and enjoying the mild temperature for the greater St. Louis area. What have you guys done to relax some this off season? I guess this is more for Evan and Ryan, as it seems like Brad's kids keep him busy enough.
Well, I was relaxing and playing golf and living my best life.
And now you're really living your best life.
And now I'm really living my best life, yeah.
That's right. All right, let's start with the Dandy Man Can. It says, last time I argued against Z and Pav in the rafters, this time I'm going to offer the other direction. Brad said the 108 cup is worth like 3 cups from the original 6 era. If that's the case, how much is 4 cups between 97 and 08 worth? There were 5 players who won all 4 and only 1 is in the rafters. I could argue that Holmstrom and the grind line were just as important in winning those cups as anyone else in that roster. Grind line set the tone and provided the camaraderie that is necessary to win it all. I'd argue that quality depth and timely secondary scoring is equally important as top-end skill, aka the McDavid experience. Those 4 put their lives on the line more than anyone else, and according to Brad's logic, have a total of 48 original 6 cups between them. Isn't that enough to get them to the rafters? Thank you guys for completing another offseason of content. I know it's not easy.
See, this is where your first point could not be more different than my opinion. Were they important for those cups? Absolutely. Just as important, not even close. The Red Wings win 0 of those cups without the Yzermans, Fedorovs, Shanahans, Lidstroms, eventually Datsyuks, Zetterbergs. Make no mistake, the grind line played a huge role. You do not win a cup unless all 20 guys on your nightly roster are firing. Just as important, though, no chance. Sergei, Stevie, Nicky, Shanahan, those were the main reasons the Red Wings won those cups.
Yeah, and it's like, that's the thing. The Hall of Fame is the first big step, but especially jerseys in the rafters. Like, there's going to be guys who check so many of the boxes. but it needs to kind of be all the boxes. And that's it's almost a silly thing to say because it's so subjective and there's no standard across the league, but kind of is what it is, right? Like you do need to be in most circumstances also one of the top end players because it's not just the cups, it's the individual performances and the stats behind it and what have you. So, I mean, I understand where the debate comes from, absolutely, and you're not wrong. And Brad just said like those guys had to be there as well, but the summation of their careers adds up to a different total.
And like, it's easy as time goes on too to lose narratives or lose reality through narratives. One of my favorite goals of all time in one of my favorite games of all time was it game 2 of the 98 Cup Finals where the Red Wings had that third period comeback and then fourth line grinder Chris Draper scores the OT winner in the Stanley Cup Finals. Unbelievable. That was game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, his first goal of the playoffs, right? Like how many did Stevie, Shanny, Sergei have to that point in the playoffs? You know what I mean? Like the moment makes the legend, but when you have the summary of what they provided to those cups, scales aren't balanced.
Uper in the D says, excellent job keeping us going all summer, my friends. I was just replaying Ozzy and Keith's interview with McLellan, and it included his comments about players not hanging out together as much anymore and not having fixed the March slump. How do you think old days camaraderie can be achieved in this globally connected digital environment? What would you try to do to give the vibe an opportunity to grow? It's a tough task, and I think maybe the answer a lot of people don't want is that you're not going to see it the same way as we used to.
I could do a very, very long answer on this, but to make it short, the way hockey players are brought up these days is very, very different. You could almost argue the way kids in society, where when a player's coming up through their minor hockey career, it's all about what's best for them, what's their next opportunity. Once they get to the age, what agent, like there's no loyalty to teams anymore. And I'm not saying there should be because teams aren't loyal to players either. But it's just, I feel like the team element of everything is watered down, which is why when you get a group like the Panthers have now, you know, you laugh about the DQ stories, but that's not nothing. Not every team does that. And when you get that close-knit of a group, it really does make a difference. And we talk about why having a good leadership group in the room is so important. Like, this is one of the reasons because, you know, you get to the NHL and everybody knows the team's bigger than the individual, but there are way more players than you would like to admit that have to have that beat into their head because that is not what they had been hearing since they were 12 years old. So it's tough, and I don't know what the answer is, short of drilling that into every minor hockey coach and agent in the world, which is never going to happen. So I don't know, but when you catch that lightning in a bottle, like you got to utilize it. You got to capitalize on it.
Gretzky had it, lost it, says the wife and I will attend 4 away games this season at the Kings and Ducks in October and at Colorado and Utah in early February. We're driving to all of them from Phoenix and have a goal of visiting every NHL building before Arizona gets the Coyotes reactivated. Yes, haters, that is happening. We may even make the Boston game in Detroit if certain rumors hold up, as the missus has never been to the LCA. My question is, what odds would you give of the Red Wings making a conference finals appearance before the NHL expands to 36?
Odds as in a percentage?
100. Why not? How many years is that?
That's your answer?
Because
I was going to say 20.
Because
I think you got 3, maybe 4 years.
But to get 4 more teams
Wait, 34 or 36?
36.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think
80.
we're
80. I don't think it's happening before 34, but 36 I'll call 80.
Because how many years will it take to onboard 4 more teams? Quite a few.
They're going to stagger it. I bet you we get one in about 2 to 3 years, and then another one about a year or 2 after that. I think they're going to stagger pretty close. And then I think we'll see another gap before the next 2.
So what, 2032, 2034 kind of thing?
I think we're probably 10 years out from 36.
100%. I'm all in. Why not? I'm crazy.
They're going to relax the expansion draft rules just when the Red Wings are good. And then the Red Wings are going to lose a very core piece of their team and obviously lose in the second round.
They already lost Ole Mata last year. What else can they take from me?
Apparently Eric Gustafsson's right on the bubble.
That could be too bad we didn't utilize that as like we're really bored early August. If we had to make an expansion protected list today.
Well, they're running out of NHL executives, so maybe Pierre will be back with one of those expansion teams and he'll be able to take Travis Hamonic again.
We can only hope. All right, folks, that wraps up this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast. I got to tell you, it is good to do this at full strength again. Many congratulations to the Lob Singers. Welcome, Sullivan. When's he going to make his first appearance on the show?
A long time.
He's been here the whole time. You just pull him up from under the couch.
That's right. Was here. He's behind the camera. He's working the camera right now.
Yeah, that's why we have an active cam today. Thank you all so very much for tuning in and for dealing with just Brad and I for so long. And thank you to all of our sponsors, to our Patreon supporters. Thank you so very much. Patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast if you want to go above and beyond and support us. And if you want to help us out, but Patreon's not for you, that is A-okay. You can also help us out by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Leave a rating, a review, a thumbs up, the star, whatever it is. Tell your friends about the show. All of that really does help us quite a bit. And to our name level supporters on Patreon, we cannot do this without you. Arjun Shanker, Akefer, THL Champ, Samuel Soderholm, Icon, Glenn Brabham, below average ball hockey goalie, Rain Dano, Sea Lion, Darb EQ, Matthew M. Rice, Adam Rose, Adam Suiza, Admiral Matt S. of the Cheesebag Navy, Alex Toger, Andy Hardcore, Anna Sleeman, Asher Killian, August, Beer League Legend, Best James Bond, Bingo Bango, Brian Munn, Butts, Carlton, Caro, Britannia Nanaluski, CB55, Chris Black, Citizen High Five, Clip Clop Nene, Connor Scovey, Craig Kibble, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Eric Hill, finally, Sergey Retiredov, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Grand Rapids Gurley, Griffin God Creatives, Hockeytown Matt, Hassam Al-Qassam, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Jeff Pridemore, John Ingalls, Jonathan Miller, Kalen Wood, Kip Tira Jr., Mark Hernandez, Marty, Matt McKay, Mr. Kuzi. Now I have to learn how to click on a Macintosh. Picking a name gives me anxiety. Brand new name level supporter. Welcome to the Dub Club. Podgy713, RA, Recreating Evan in the Aggregate, Roy Donk, Sam Bankson, Slim Smitty Cards, Stephen Ortlieb, That's What I Appreciate About You, William, Wings Fan in Chicago, Iser Plan Stan, Aaron Hutson, General Andy Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, 91 to the Rafters, Aaron, All Motor No Hands, Angie, Anston Slavsky, Antonio Gracias, Bellingham Massive Balls, Bex, Big Cheese, Brad Simmons, Carl Thames, C.E. Hayes, Commander Ben Barron of the Cheesebag Space Force, Connor Leighton, Corey Prida, Darren Fick, Drop the Puck, Dub Club Hoodie Enjoyer, Dylan Larkin, Trade Sacrifice, Eric Nance, Evan Beckner, Evans Brown Pomeranian, Falkness, Frank Stanley, Gene Sullivan, Grepsky, Griffey Boy, Jacob Marsh, James Pridemore, Johnny Page, Jeremiah Dobo, Jim, JM Rhapsody, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Linda Hull, Lonnie Zone, Lucas Raymond, Matt Keeler, Mike Asher. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was America. Oh, Ophelia, As Good As It Gets, Peter Swanson, Return of Jambo, Rosie Posey, Roy Mudbutt, Steven, that other guy, the Hodag, the Hat 123, Trent Thorough, Wings Fan in St. Louis, Scott. Happy birthday again, Zachary. You Bernadian, your second favorite patron. Thank you all so very much. We'll talk to you, next time Evan shows up here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to visit wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you'll find links to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find ways to support the show, like Patreon, official podcast merchandise, and more. And don't forget to follow us on X at Winged Wheel Pod, at Ryan Hanna, WWP, at Brad Crisco, and at Hockeytown Evan, as well as Winged Wheel Podcast on Instagram.